The decision to pursue advanced education is never the easiest one to make. Yet somehow, Chanel and I decided to give it a shot and try to get our PhDs.
One of us stuck it out, while the other decided it was best to escape. Hallelujah!
Listen to us recount our time in graduate school.
The Chanel and Cindy origin story.
Laugh with us and maybe even cry as we recount the tale of struggle, triumph, loss, and perseverance. Hi, Chanel.
Hi, Cindy.
Are you ready?
I'm not ready.
Because this video, or I guess this video, in this podcast has been a long time coming.
A long time coming.
I think this is the episode that you referenced the most in season 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like eventually we'll talk about it. Mm-hmm. Eventually.
And that topic is our graduate school experiences.
Oh, no.
Just as like a quick background for those who are tuning in and listening to us, Chanel and I met at Rice University during our during our PhD doctorate programs.
Unfortunately.
Where at the time that we met, I was getting a PhD in chemical engineering and you were getting a PhD in computational and applied mathematics.
Yes, that is correct.
Before you switched to a PhD in statistics.
Exactly.
Look at me knowing you.
You got memory.
Yeah. I mean, I am your friend. Like we do talk.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, one thing I want to say before we get into this episode is that this is going to be super therapeutic, 100%. And also, everything that we're saying is not overly exaggerated the slightest. We're going to be talking about, because I know like we like to add a little bit of pizzazz just to get a little bit extra humor.
Sauce.
Yeah, just to get the humor.
But we're not joking.
We're not joking.
This actually happened.
Yeah. It's like inspired by a true story.
Yes.
This is a true story.
Based on a true story. Days of our lives.
I think the way that we should start first is we should start with why did we want to go to grad school? Because I want to say this, we honestly both wanted to go. It's not like we were forced into this.
Yep.
We did end up wanting to go. And ultimately by the end of it, for some being me, stuck through it. And for others being you.
I ran for my life.
Exactly. So how about you go first? Why did you want to go to grad school? And why did you want to get your PhD? Because also, you didn't just get your PhD. You also got your master's.
Yes.
So why?
So I wanted to go to grad school. So when I first started college, I wanted to be a college professor.
Yeah.
You have to go to grad school.
Yeah.
And I was, I talked to people. Obviously, there's a lot of professors around and stuff. And I found out, like, even if you just get a master's degree, a lot of times that's not enough.
Yeah.
Because you'll end up playing, like, the part-time game where you just bounce around from part-time gig, teaching.
Yeah.
And so some of my professors, during the first few years of, like, my math program even, they teach at like 4 different universities and they drive around, or community colleges as well.
Wow.
And they drive around and they have a couple classes here, a couple classes there, a couple classes here.
Yeah.
And they're trying to piece together a full-time income through part-time work.
Yeah.
And they do not pay well. They don't have any benefits in a lot of cases and all that crap. So I was like, okay, I'm not doing that. That's not happening. So automatically I knew that I needed more than a master's degree. I needed a PhD. So I went through my undergrad program. I struggled. Math is a hard major.
Yeah.
Is one of the hardest majors.
I almost was a mathematician, but
Whew.
At the time when I was told that calculus was only scratching the surface of math,
that's baby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was difficult for me. And I was like, maybe I should just keep that in the past.
Yeah. And just, to add on to what you just said, I took several, multiple courses, proving calculus.
That's disgusting.
Proving it.
That's disgusting.
When you were doing, the limit does not exist. I had to prove why the limit did not exist. And so
saying the limit did not exist was the easiest way to finish
the limit does not exist.
When in doubt,
the limit does not exist.
when you can't figure it out. It's because 99% of the time, you're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, yeah, very difficult major. Definitely, my mental health went from I'm okay to I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And so I remember after I graduated from my bachelor's program, I was like, what am I going to do with my life? Because I don't know if I'm ready to go into a PhD program, and I don't know if college professor is going to work for me because I just got beat up.
Pow, pow, pow.
I was on the ground and they said,
go,
get up, fight back, please.
And you're like,
and
ow,
I was,
ow, don't hit me, stop the face.
I can't even see. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I took a year off. And then I decided to go back to my master's, and that master's was going to be like, is graduate school for me or not?
Yeah.
I did very well in my master's program, and I was chilling. I was having fun.
What did you get your master's in?
I got my master's in applied mathematics.
Okay.
My bachelor's was in pure mathematics.
Yike.
Pure mathematics is rough. So rough.
Yeah.
If I would have been a applied mathematics major, I probably would have had a lot easier time. Because those classes, I had to take 2 extra classes on calculus proving that crap. So yeah. So I went through my master's program. I was chilling. So then I talked to one of the professors there, and I was like, okay, I think I want to be a college professor. So what I got to do, help me out. And so he told me all about it. And then he basically led me to other resources. So I talked to other professors about their experience and stuff like that. And then they were telling me about grad school, and all of them were like, grad school is hard.
That's what they said?
Yes.
That's crazy.
They were very honest. Luckily for me, at a state school, I feel like we have the best college professors, to be honest. Like other like non-state schools, the super prestigious schools or the private schools and stuff like that, I feel like a lot of the professors don't care. But at state schools, a lot of those professors will be straight up with you. They'll help you. They'll go the extra mile a lot of the time. So I definitely felt supported in that moment trying to get it done. But the professors were very honest with me. I had one professor tell me, she's a woman. She was telling me, I experienced sexism during my program. Like a lot of the professors were extremely sexist. And, just day one, I felt unwelcomed and I suffered until the end of the program.
So people were giving you the 411.
They were giving me the 411, 100%. And even in that aspect, especially talking to that professor, she was essentially like, after I got on my PhD, I didn't want to be a college professor anymore. The only reason why I'm a college professor is because I got to teach at this state school where we actually teach students and we actually care about students, and we're not just, machines popping out research and all of that stuff. So, I think I came into my PhD eyes open. Because I already suffered in undergrad. I already experienced racism. I already experienced, not all the professors at state schools are amazing. So I've experienced that, right? And especially choosing a pure mathematics major. I'm pretty sure I'm the only Black woman who graduated as a pure mathematics major, at least for a little bit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I was looking around.
You
I think I saw one Black man. Hopefully he graduated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is the rough part there. So I was already worn in and I knew I'm going to try this. It might not work. If it doesn't work, I'm not suffering through this. I will leave.
Yeah.
That's my mindset going in. But my goal was to become a college professor. You have to get a PhD if you want to be a college professor. So I said, I'm going to try.
Yep.
So that was my motivation. So I feel like I came in very realistic and like focused on what I wanted to do.
Yeah. For me, I actually had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew that I did not want to do what everybody else was doing.
Yeah.
I will say I did get some exterior pressure from my father. My father always wanted me to be a doctor. Up until I started college, he wanted me to be an MD. But when I told him I can't even stand the sight of my own blood, he kind of switched to PhD.
Let me interrupt you for just 1 second. Black people. Because why did my parents, they said, okay, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer.
Yeah.
Everybody wants you to be a medical doctor.
Yeah, doctor, lawyer. And then I decided engineering because I was good at math and science. and I like chemistry, but I didn't want to go and get a degree in just chemistry because when I talked to my chemistry teacher, she made it seem like your only options with chemistry was like you could be a chemistry teacher. Like, isn't that weird?
Yeah,
Now that I know more, she made it, or maybe she didn't say that, but she just made it sound like your options are very limiting if you want to get a degree in chemistry.
Yeah.
Because I really like chemistry because of her class. Like, I went to her and said, I want to be a chemist. And she pretty much dissuaded me from being a chemist.
Maybe she knows something.
Maybe she knows something. Looking now, because a lot of who I work with are chemists, I'm like, we have about the same type of jobs as I pursued a chemical engineering, but maybe it's just dependent on, because the timing is different. 2024 to what I graduated high school in 2018.
2018?
2014, my bad.
I was about to say, girl, that's a whole different generation.
Yeah, I always get the years I graduated college and graduated high school mixed up. But yeah, 2014. So this is 2013 that I'm talking to her, because that's when I just finished. And I was like, hey, I'm looking into colleges. I want to go get a degree in chemistry. Like, I think this is what I want to focus on. And she was just like, I hope you do realize that chemistry is a lot more in depth than what I taught in class.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I understand. And she goes, also, there's not that many careers that you can have as a chemist. Like, you could become a chemistry. I only remember her saying you could become a chemistry teacher. And at the time, I was like, I don't think I want to be a high school teacher. Like, that's not what I want to go to school for. I don't want to be a high school chemistry teacher. So that's kind of how I ended up in chemical engineering. And so with chemical engineering, at the time that I graduated, Intel was hiring a bunch of people. So everybody that was graduating with me ended up going to Intel. And I just did not want to be that person that just picked up and went to where everybody else is. Because I felt as though me going from, I went to the same, I went to school, to college in the same place I went to high school. So a lot of people I went with to school with in high school came with me to college. And it was when I left and went on my first internship that I started seeing the world better. And I was just like, I can't go with these people to Intel.
Deal with the same nonsense.
It's like the small town mindset.
Yep.
I would continue with the small town mindset. So I was like, I need to figure out a way to leave. But I don't think I had the necessary resources to figure out how to get to another job.
Yeah.
Right? They teach you how to build a resume, but they don't really tell you how to apply to jobs.
They don't.
Right? They're like, oh, here's your help for interviewing. But like, okay, you
Good
help
luck.
me make the resume, you help me interview, but how do I get the jobs?
Yeah.
Right? So I listened to my dad. I went through the process. I was kind of against going to get a PhD, but I said, okay, if I get a good score on the GRE, they no longer do GREs, but if I get a good score,
they no longer do it.
It's not a requirement.
They need to throw that test in the garbage.
You can still do it. People have said in like admissions, and this was like also around COVID when things were harder to like do. They had been trying to get rid of the GRE. So they say you can take the GRE if you don't think your other scores, like if you don't think your grades, thank you, are good enough, you can do the GRE, but it's not required to apply.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I get good GRE scores, I'm going to apply. Right? It was like, okay, if I do well on the GRE, then I'll apply to a school. If I get invited to a school, then I'm going to go. Pretty much is what happened. And literally, I only applied to 4 schools because I really was resistant going to grad school. I was just like, I'm gonna only apply to 4, and I had 2 that I liked, Rice University and Yale. I got into Rice, and I got rejected to Yale from Yale while I was at Rice. So I was like, okay, I'm going to Rice.
Yep.
And so when I got there, the main reason why I wanted to go to grad school was at the time I had gotten into research in high school. I was doing my first year of college, and I was doing research related to like water purification, and that really interested me. And because I was an undergrads do whatever they want when it comes to research because it's not through livelihood.
Yep. And
I was making some extra change. I was getting paid as a freshman to do research, and I didn't even have a degree. It was October. I'm not even a chemical engineer at that point. I remember coming into some of my meetings with my advisor at the time being like, I just learned this in class. This applies to my work. And he's like, yeah, that's like the basic fundamentals, but
he was hooking you up.
He was. Like, I will say I was very nurtured from the very beginning to be a PhD student. Even to the point, like, I think somewhere around my junior year, I stopped going as actively to my advisor, and somehow last minute, I decided, like, super last minute. Like, I took the GRE and the scores came back, and I was like, okay, I'm doing it. I went to him for a letter of recommendation, and he was like, yeah, you're meant to do this.
Duh.
I'm like, I haven't talked to you.
He's like, you didn't know?
Yeah. So I'm like getting tangent on tangent. But anyway, the reason why I ended up going was because of the research opportunity that I had. There was an organization called New Nano-Enabled Water Treatment that was an engineering research center across 4 schools, Arizona State University, Rice University, Yale University, and University of Texas, El Paso. And the whole purpose of this was to try to make research that would bring modular water treatment devices to developing in third world countries, which I was very much interested in. So I was just like, oh, well, I don't really know what I want to do with my career, but I really like this research thing that I did for the past 4 years in undergrad. And this is a research opportunity that's not going to present itself in the future because the ERC was only for 10 years. And at the time that I had started, they were already on year 4. So if I had waited like 3 years, by the time I would have come in, that ERC would be out of money.
Yeah.
Right? So I was like, okay, Cindy, this is your only chance and only opportunity to do research like this. You might as well go and do it.
Yeah. So
I really had no plans for my career afterwards. It's not like I necessarily was going for the PhD. I was just going for the opportunity to learn. Because at that point, I realized I really liked research, and I saw a PhD as an advanced way to learn. And that would have probably given me a leg up over other people where I was like, maybe I could potentially start my own company. Like, I have the ability to research. I have the connections between like professors and then future companies. I could potentially take the work that I'm doing and commercialize on it and actually help people by bringing clean water to people in the world. And that's kind of how I saw it. I was like, I'm going to be a superhero.
I'm going to change the world.
Pretty much. And then my dreams were crushed.
Yeah. Stomped on. Burned.
Whew. So
let's talk about applying real quick.
Okay.
Because you mentioned that you applied to 4 schools. I don't even remember how many I applied to, but it was a lot.
Yeah. Well, the issue is, the reason why I couldn't apply to that much was I was paying for it.
You see, I got fee waivers.
And you see, I wasn't told about fee waivers.
That's because I'm telling you, I told my professor, he hooked me up. He's like, talk to this person, talk to that person, whatever. So I think I applied somewhere like 30 programs probably.
Wow.
30.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It was hard.
And what was it? The fees were like $75 per application, weren't they?
Typically, yeah. I didn't pay anything. I paid $0.
Which is great. But for people who don't know about fee waivers, again, this is a perfect example at how grad school makes your life more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Because why is it that there are such thing as fee waivers, but you're not going to advertise them?
Not going to advertise them. Not going to let anybody know. Like, literally, professors were telling me, just email the staff and ask for a fee waiver.
Yeah.
Literally, everybody gave me a fee waiver.
Yeah.
They were like, okay, let me check.
Well, it's because if only one, like, let's just say it's a handful, 10 people out of the hundreds of applications that they get, only 10 people need a fee waiver, they're not going to miss that money.
Yeah.
And the thing is as well, the likelihood that you're actually going to get into the school, you have no idea.
No idea.
Right? So it's like, in the scheme of everything, it's like you never even applied.
Exactly.
If you didn't give the money and you didn't get in, it's like you never even applied. So that's no sweat off their back.
I don't care.
Yeah.
So yeah, but applying was rough.
It was.
Getting the application materials, getting letters of recommendations.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
That sucked.
How much time did it take you to put together your actual application?
That's a good question. I procrastinated for a while.
I did too.
But I think I sat down and wrote my statement of purpose. It probably took me maybe 3 days to write, and then probably a week to get feedback, and then probably a few more days to edit. So probably 2 weeks.
Oh, you got feedback?
2 weeks, I got feedback. I sent it to everybody, professors, friends, everybody.
Yeah.
And so that was probably 2 weeks. And then some of them wanted a
research statement.
Statement. Some of them wanted a research statement. I applied to a lot of programs.
Yeah.
Some of them wanted a research statement. Not all. Also, some of them wanted a diversity statement.
Yes, that's the one that I was thinking of.
And then other than that, it was just getting letters of rec. But yeah, for you, did you have a hard time writing that personal statement?
Yes.
What did you talk about in yours?
Do we have to talk about it?
You don't have to.
Okay. Well, first I want to say, so the semester that I applied to grad school was one of my hard semesters. So the semester like junior year.
Yep.
I didn't start my application until 2 weeks before it was due.
Yeah.
So it was due December 15th. I started at December like 1st or 2nd.
Yep.
Because that's when finals were done. So I went to a coffee shop. I drove to a coffee shop every single day. Me and 2 other people I was in the chemical engineering program with, we all decided we were going to grad school. 2 of us were getting our PhDs. 1 of us were getting our masters. What we did was we would write, and then every like 30 minutes we would get up and change laptops so that we would read what was written.
That's
edit.
hilarious.
Yeah.
You guys are funny.
Well, that's what we did, because the thing is, that was the only way we could power through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it was very difficult to write something like the personal statement, because I'm not good at talking about myself.
Yeah.
And so it really, even though you say it was kind of funny, it really did help, because someone was able to read it from another perspective and be like, I don't know what you're talking about. So it's not like I wrote the entire personal statement and I started from scratch.
Yeah.
People were able to catch it earlier and be like, this doesn't make any sense. Or because they were friends, they knew my story just as well as I did. And they were just like, well, Cindy, why are you talking about this when you can talk about something else? I will say, the reason why I don't want to bring it up is because I pandered so bad. I use the immigrant parent story.
Of course.
Yeah.
Use it.
I use the immigrant parent story.
That's what they want.
It is true, because the research I wanted to do was related to water purification, and the research I wanted to be a part of was bringing water to developing and third world countries.
Yes.
And so I used the story of my parents coming from a developing region in Africa. At the time, obviously, it's like things have changed. Nigeria is more up and coming now than it was back then. But I use the story of my mother. She's the eldest of 7. And every single day she would have to walk 3 miles, or I guess a total of 6 miles, to bring enough water for her and her family to have for that day.
Yep.
Because that was like, even though they had water closer to them, it wasn't clean. And I was just like, my parents moved to the United States to give my siblings and I the opportunity to have a life not like that. Why? It, like, to me, it didn't make any sense for me to be so privileged, and then there could have been a version of Cindy where my parents decided never to come to the United States, who would be going through that problem.
Yep. And
nobody cares enough because it's not at their front door. So that's how I kind of put together the personal statement. I was able to use the connection from like coming to Rice early. And because I had, and also I met a couple of people who worked in the staff office at another conference, and I buddied up with them to the point that when I actually did show up to the recruitment weekend, everybody was happy to see me.
Yeah.
And so I was able to, like, I pandered. I used a sob story.
Yep.
And then I used my personality to kind of worm my way into the program. Obviously, I was qualified. They're not going to just pick me because of my personality, but that's kind of how it worked. But the personal statement, I pandered. And the diversity statement, I also pandered.
Diversity statement, you have to pander.
Yeah. What'd you write about?
So in my personal statement, oh my God. Of course, I also pandered. I said, hey, I'm a Black woman, the first of my family to graduate from a 4-year university, period. I'm in math, and I want to be a college professor. You know you don't got no Black woman college professors. Not one.
Not one.
So I talked about, you know, how basically, like, I want to be that change. I want to change the world. Because I have been in a lot of classrooms. Nobody looks like me.
Yeah.
And then, you know, professors, some of them are racist and sexist, misogynoir.
Yeah.
And so I basically put all that in there. And then there was also, you know, of course, talking about the research that you want to do and whatnot. I would, honestly, I applied to 30 programs.
That's crazy.
I literally researched every single program, picked 3 potential advisors from every single program, chose a research focus that aligns with some of them for every single program, and then I just had that line where you take it out and plug it in, take it out and plug it in. I had to do that 30 times.
That's crazy, though. I only had to do that 4. Crazy.
So that's what I talked about. Yeah, I honestly, I never want to read that thing again. Hopefully I have accidentally deleted it and it's gone.
It's still on my computer.
It's probably still on mine. Maybe it might be on my
there.
old laptop, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so don't want to read it again because I feel like I would cringe. But it was a good statement.
So here's the thing. I read mine again. Mine must have done something because my advisor taught a class to students on undergraduates on how to apply to grad school. And he personally asked me for my statement.
Yep.
He goes, I still have it. He's like, I still have your statement, but I want to ask your permission first if I can use it.
Yep.
And I was shocked at the fact that he still had it because at this point I was like a fourth year.
They keep application materials,
which is crazy to me. But he was just like, yeah, I'm teaching a class. Since you're still here, I just want to I want to let you know, because there were some students who were taking the class who knew me, who knew my story. He was just like, I just want to let you know. People are in this class are going to know who you are. So people might come up to you and talk to you about your personal statement.
Yep.
But I just want to ask your permission because I want to use you as a good example of a personal statement.
That's good.
But I read it and I cringed.
Cringe.
So I'm just like, yeah. But I keep it. At least I've kept it for the purpose that he used it for.
Yeah.
I'm not the type of person who's going to hold material. Like if my material got me into rice and you want to figure out how to get into rice, I will give you everything.
Yep.
I will tell you that it's not like copy and paste, but if you want to see what got somebody into a program, I keep it to give. I now think I've grown out of that position of being able to help people get into grad school, because now grad school is a completely different beast than when we started. But at least throughout my like 4 or 5 years, anytime someone was like, yeah, I'm thinking of applying, I want a statement, I'm like, here's mine.
Yeah. And I used to mentor students that were trying to get into a PhD program, specifically underrepresented
minorities.
That was definitely written in my personal statement.
Yeah, many times. You can do Control F and see it like
Control
50,000
F
times.
and just at least 10.
Yep.
And so, applying to grad schools was already brutal. Like I said, I did my due diligence of, reaching out to people. I did everything that I needed to do. Everything was right. I got into a few different programs. I got into Rice.
Yeah.
I got into, I think, UC Riverside.
Okay.
There was a couple more that I'm not remembering. But yeah, I got into a few different places. Oh, UCI too. UC Irvine. And there was a few other places that I got into. I went and visited with most places that I got into. But also the issue was COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So I didn't get to visit everywhere. They had like virtual visits and all that stuff.
Which I don't think is the way you can tell whether or not you like a place is to actually be there and feel the vibe.
Actually be there in person, feel the vibe. And even then it'll still lie to you. But
like
nonetheless,
at the very least, you can get more of a sense of you're being lied to.
Yeah.
Than through a screen.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're thousands of miles away from each other.
Yeah. So selecting the programs that I got into was hard for me because I wanted to be a college professor. You want to go to the highest university you possibly can.
Yeah.
Because typically, if you go to X university and it's ranked here, you can only teach below.
Yeah.
You can't go higher.
Yep.
And so on paper, Rice is like in the top 20 in the US.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to go there. Because if I want to be a college professor, this is the best choice.
Yep.
If I was actually choosing the best choice
for you,
for me as just getting a PhD, not worrying about anything that came after, I probably would have went to UC Riverside.
Okay.
And that's because UCI would have been a good pick, but it was in a different field, a field that was like a reach for me. I think it was like computational science or something like that, or it was something in like what's the computer department?
Computer science?
Yeah, computer science department. That's what it was. And so I'm like, that's a stretch for me. And I don't know if I want to commit to a stretch. And then also I met with the advisor and he seems like a very hands-off, like weird person that's just kind of like roaming type of person. You know what I mean? Like the person that you're like, where's my advisor?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah, I just went on a vacation for like 2 weeks. Are you done with your paper? Like, that type of vibe is what I was getting. So I was like, that's not going to work. But UCI is like down the street for me. So that would have been nice.
I also heard UCI is just not good for grad students either.
I've heard a lot of horror stories. That's why I didn't apply to their math department, because I've heard horror stories. Yeah. So I was like, if I'm going to apply there, let me choose something different. So yeah, I think UCR probably would have been the best fit. It was a statistics department and the people seemed really nice there. So maybe I only visited virtually, so I don't know, but if I was making the decision again and I had to go through it again and I had to get a PhD, I would have chose that one. Gotcha. But yeah, I went with Rice simply because it was
high up there,
super high ranking. And once I was like, I'm going to Rice, everybody was like, damn, you're going to Rice. Oh my God.
The way that I had never heard of Rice before applying to Rice. And
not even
like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. The prestige.
The prestige.
Woo.
So what was life like for you once you got there? And I'm going to talk like, let's not talk about the COVID period because that's just like but when you actually officially were on campus, going through the courses and being amongst like the professors, the faculty, and the students.
Yeah.
How was your graduate school experience?
It was immediately awful. Immediately awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like first semester, hell on earth. And I was so surprised because I knew it was going to be bad.
Yeah.
I already had it in my mind. These people are going to try to play me. Yeah. But they came out swinging, girl. They came out swinging. Wop. And I was like, this is the bad place. And I was like, I got to get up out of here. First semester, I already knew I had to leave. Yeah. 100%.
Did I meet you your first semester? No, was this your second year that I met you, or was it your first semester of your first year?
I feel like you met me tail end of first semester, maybe as like just a meeting. And then I feel like we became friends in the second
When
semester.
was the GEM conference?
I think that was second semester.
Okay.
I think. Because I remember it being in the spring.
Okay. I don't know why I thought it was in the fall, but maybe you're right.
Yeah, I think it was
It's giving like middle of a semester.
Yeah, it was middle of the semester.
It's either March or September, October.
Yeah. Oh, no, for sure is the spring because I wasn't there until November.
Oh, okay, then yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So then, yeah, so the reason why it was so bad immediately was, first of all, I came late because of COVID. I didn't want to move during the COVID nonsense, but then I found when I was at home and trying to do everything at home, it was just too much for me. Like my mom had hip surgery, so I had to help out with my mom, then also taking classes. And then additionally, I was about to say CEO. I got to stop. The department chair, he was a department chair from a different department. That's already a red flag.
Yeah.
He was a department chair from a different department that was doing a favor for the department by being the department chair. I guess some of the professors didn't want to be the department chair. Yeah. I don't know. And so,
well, your department is small. I'm sure that small, people, they probably already went through and everybody did it once and like, well,
yeah, they're like, we don't want to do it. So they grabbed someone. He incompetent. He didn't file the proper paperwork. So I heard, and so we had to take, like, there was too many options for us to take the first semester to where we were encouraged to take, I think, like 3 or 4 like hard classes our first semester.
Wow.
So we were already coming into the gate swinging when normally they would do like 2 and 2 of the hard classes. From my memory, I might be misremembering anything.
It's been a minute.
In this story because trauma, trying to forget it. So it is what it is. But yeah, so we had to take certain classes, and I had my advisor already at the beginning of the program. And so he's like, yeah, I want you to take these classes. Yeah. So I'm taking the classes. I've never taken this subject before. This is a brand new subject. Yeah. It's very confusing. And I was not picking up what they were putting down at all. I was like, I have no idea what we're doing. Yeah. And it seemed like it was the case where people who have seen the concept before were fine.
Of course.
But people who did not see the concept before were like, what are we doing?
Right.
Like,
because they're teaching at a graduate level, which means we're not going to give you the fundamentals that you need to understand because you should have learned that in undergrad.
Yeah.
Despite the facts, they encourage people and they accept people who are coming from different programs into them. So like someone who's probably pure math, who's never done applied mathematics before, is probably like, what even is this?
Exactly. And so, I was struggling. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Let me just move down there. So I moved down there, and already when I moved, there was more issues. So, for example, I ordered a parking pass, and the parking pass gets delivered to the department. And so I was like, hey, I emailed the secretary, and I was like, hey, I ordered a parking pass. They said that they're going to deliver it to the department. Like, can you let me know when it gets there? Like how I get it? They never told me about my parking pass at all. So I literally have to email these people again. And so like eventually I talked to one of the other students, and they were like, oh, it's in your mailbox. I'm like, we have mailboxes.
Right.
Did not tell us anything about mailboxes. Did not tell us anything about anything that we needed to know.
Yeah.
So I finally got my parking pass like weeks in. I'm like paying for parking. Because I have to come to the school and do things. I'm paying for parking. So finally got my parking pass. And then there was like some other petty things that I don't really remember. But like it was just a lot of like, what's going on? Where's the communication at? Basically vibes. And so COVID was a big issue as well. Because, you know, a lot of the students didn't feel connected. We're having virtual classes and all the whole nine. Luckily, me and Kyra locked in.
Y'all both decided to come.
She's the only reason why I got my sanity still.
Right.
100%.
Right.
So yeah. So then after that, like the moment where I was like, oh, we're doing this was we had a town hall in the middle of the semester. I think it was definitely after I was there, but like I'm like a week in, like I've just got here.
Yeah.
So just got here and we're having a town hall. Okay, let's see what's going on.
Yeah.
So first of all, the graduate students planned the town hall. We had like you said, like in your department, you have like a graduate student association within your department. Those people are the ones who planned it. That's already a red flag.
Yeah.
Why are the graduate students planning a town hall for the entire department?
Yeah.
So then they sent out a basically like anonymous like
poll
survey basically asking like, hey, are there any issues that you're facing during COVID that you think there's like a solution that the department can help with, you know, like that kind of idea, trying to like basically feel out how are our graduate students doing, even though they're graduate students. So, but how are the graduate students doing? And like, is there anything the department can do to support?
Yeah.
Right. And so first of all, again, why are the graduate students doing this? It would be nice if a professor did this. It's kind of like maybe your job.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You get paid a lot.
You get paid a lot.
Grad students get paid nothing.
We get paid nothing.
And yet we're doing all your work.
Yes.
Okay.
And you can't even go, hey fam, how's it going?
Right.
Because I know nobody asked me. Especially not anything of support wise, right? But so I remember Kyra made a suggestion basically saying like, hey, so I know at a different university that I've been at, they offer lunches to students who are underrepresented minorities.
People of color.
Period. So she put that in the suggestion box, right? And then they ended up sharing it during the meeting. Keep in mind, you said small department. There's literally like 3 people who are underrepresented minorities. 3, 4. Maybe. It would just be me and Kyra at the lunches like.
Yep. Looking at each other.
So this is not a lot of money. They could have gave us $40 and said, do what you can.
Yeah.
And we would have been like, thanks.
You could have easily made copies out of them if you wanted more.
Yeah, exactly.
And that would have been like a good like 5 or 6.
Exactly. You could have just had like a little coffee and cookie situation. We'll live and make us buy it. We don't care.
Right.
So yeah, so they brought that up, and then immediately the department chair, who's not even a part of the department, he says, well, have you guys seen the budget?
Well,
No, we haven't seen the budget.
What student sees your budget? Also, I'm sure you don't want us to see the budgets, because we'll see,
Oh,
it's crazy how all this money is going and being thrown into a fire to burn.
Yeah.
When it can be given to students.
exactly. So then, yeah, so he's basically like, yeah, we don't have money for that. And, I don't know how you want to do that. It just doesn't really make sense to me, type thing. Right. Mm-hmm. And then another professor chimes in, and he basically says like, oh, well, I don't think it's fair that, we're doing this for the students of color, because what about white men? He literally said that. This is a Hispanic man, and not even straight from Spain. You know what I mean? You got some indigenous in you. I need you to act like it. But anyways, I digress. So then my advisor chimes in, and he goes, oh, well, do you want money for POC lunches, or do you want money to send POCs to conferences? Okay, so this is an either or situation.
But also, a lunch equates to sending someone to a conference?
A conference. And even then, a lot of times you guys send people to conferences for free.
For free, or you make us pay for it first, and then we have to wait 50 years to get reimbursed.
True. Crazy. So then, yeah, and then another professor chimed in. Mm-hmm. Love this. Black man. You know who I'm talking about.
I do.
Trash. So he ends up saying, well, if we do this once, then we'll have to do this again.
No duh.
And then we'll have to, put it into the budget. And, it's been a rough year. And I don't know how that's going to work in the budget. So me and Kyra, I'm so glad we were together. We were together watching this on our laptops. Mm-hmm. And we were just looking at each other. Just blinking. Looking at each other. Look at that. We're on camera. Looking at each other. Looking at them. Looking at each other. Looking at them. I was like, are these people insane?
Yes.
So then Kyra unmutes herself. And she's like, this isn't making sense. Mm-hmm. She's like, you all brought us here.
Yeah.
And now you don't want to support. Mm-hmm. If you didn't want to support us as students, especially the underrepresented students, why did you bring us to this department?
Snaps for Kyra.
Yes. And she went off, girl. And I was sitting there like, what she said.
Yeah.
Because I was still in my like, I'm unbothered era. Mm-hmm. I don't need to tell anybody about themselves. I just live my life. Whatever. That's the era I was in. But yeah. So that moment, I was like, no way, Jose. So we got off that town hall. Me and her were pissed off.
Rightfully so.
Absolutely pissed off, because it's like there was more in that conversation that just clearly showed that these people do not care. Mm-hmm. They do not care. They're not here. They're not self-aware. They're not like, no empathy.
Right.
Was the main event there. Mm-hmm. And so after that, the black man professor got on a call with us. He invited both of us to a call, and he was essentially in that meeting saying like, you two are not shucking and jiving. Like essentially you two need to present yourself in a way that is acceptable, essentially. Because I remember Kyra was like emailing like the department chair and saying like, hey, here's how you can do this and da da da. Like here's you, because you asked for suggestions. Like this is the way you could do it. Yeah. And he was essentially like, oh yeah, if you want to talk to the department chair, there's a process you have to go through. Send me the email and then I'll go ahead and edit it and send it to the thing. And so he was basically telling us to stay in our place,
right,
and make sure that you're playing the game and that you appease basically these white people.
Yeah.
That's what he was saying. How was your grad school experience?
The way in which I have 5 years of trauma.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how best. I have so many stories.
Yeah.
So many stories.
Yeah.
I guess we could start with year 1.
Yeah.
So the way my program got set up, I got my PhD in chemical engineering from Rice University. And your first year, you're not really doing any research. You actually don't get into your research lab until the November of your first year, because they want you to focus on your courses. So our first year is very course heavy. We take 8 courses how many courses was that? Maybe it was, I don't even remember at this point.
Let it go.
Maybe it was 8 courses plus like 3 electives or whatever, or maybe it was a total of 8. But we took courses our first semester. I think it was 3 too. So I think it was a total of 8, but 3 the first semester, 2 the second semester, and they wanted you to get the core courses out of the way before you really fully got into research. So even though I was in a lab starting November of my first semester of grad school, I wasn't officially doing research until the summer after my first year. So a lot of the issues that I dealt with in my first year were with the students. So I was the only black woman, and I was, I think, one of 3 black people in the program, in the entirety of the graduate program at the time that I started. Right? So just one of the things that you have to do as a grad student, you have to be a teaching assistant. That's kind of how you pay. And also it's a requirement.
Which sucks.
Yeah. You have to be a teaching assistant. I think at the time that I had started, I think you had to do it 4 times. And I think they dropped it down to less later on. So both of my instances of racism actually with other grad students was related to being a teaching assistant. And it wasn't the students that I taught, but the students that I worked with. The first instance was I was a TA for process controls, which if anybody who knows me and knows me from undergrad knows I sucked at process controls. I got so lucky. My friend Sue literally tutored me into getting a B in that class because I was failing.
Yeah.
But I think it was one of those things where it just was the way in which the professor was teaching was just not the way that I understood. So Sue sitting down and like walking me through it helped me.
Which is always the case.
Always the case. So I ended up getting a B in the class, but this is not a class that I should be a TA in. And the issue is they don't really teach you how to be a TA. They just assume because you took the class, you should be able to help. Whatever. But the thing was, I was still a TA. I was still doing the TA-ship, whatever. And it was me and 2 other men. It was an Indian man and a white man. So it was me, Indian man, white man. We were the ones doing the TAing. I was leading TA sessions. They were leading TA sessions. We were leading exam reviews. We were doing all the work as we do as a TA, right? And I was just like, I was just doing it. I was just doing it to do it. And then, I mean, like, one of the things that I have an issue with is I always undermine my abilities. So I would always talk to people about like, yeah, I'm barely doing any work. Like, it's just like, I'm not good at it. So I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing what is expected of me. I can't even really answer most of their questions, blah, 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 blah. I'm just like talking to talk. Right. So it comes time for the end of the semester. What they do they do a holiday party at the end of every semester. And at the holiday party, what they do is they give awards for best TA. Where I didn't know at the time, but they asked the students to vote on who they believe the best TA was for them. So there's a best TA for the fall and spring for the freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year classes. So process control is a senior year class. Tell me why I won.
Not surprised.
Best TA for
Not
the
surprised.
fall semester for senior.
Not surprised.
The way in which I walked up to the stage with food in my mouth.
You were like, not gonna win this.
Because I can eat, right? So at the time, I finished my plate. And I think the person who was serving food, he really liked me. He really liked me in the sense of like, I was the only person who like talked to him and said hi or whatever. So they were cleaning up and I was like, hey, I'm still kind of hungry. And he looked around. He's like, technically, I'm not supposed to give you another plate, but for you, whatever you want.
Yep.
Like, just pick. We're cleaning up right now, so it's not going to look weird if I just put together a plate for you real fast. So I'm eating my second plate of food as they're going through the awards, right? Yep. And they go freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. I didn't think I was going to win. So I'm stuffing my face in heels that I can barely walk in. So I'm chewing as I'm hobbling to the front because my feet hurt. Because they said, Cindy won best senior TA for the fall semester.
You said, ooh.
They said Cindy, and I looked over like, who? Is there another Cindy here? And then my table was like, that's you.
That's you. Go.
Me hobbling. And then you have to take a photo. So I'm trying to push the food to a side of my mouth, but then I remembered it's going to look like a chipmunk. So I just brought it back to the center.
Cindy.
It smelled like this. Closed lip smile.
Yep.
Hobbled back to the table. Shocked. You want to know what the craziest part about this is too? This was the same day that class, they were having an exam, a final exam at the exact same time that the holiday party was happening. So me and the other TAs, we all agreed that we were going to go to the holiday party, but we were going to go in shifts. So someone got the first shift, someone got the second shift, and then I got the last shift. Mm-hmm. So I was the one who was supposed to pick up all the exams. So I was on a high, right? Because I just won an award. But at this point, I didn't know how I got this award, right? I just knew I got this award. And I was actually doing research with the professor of this class. So I just assumed she nominated me because she liked me. But I was on a high. So again, my feet hurt. I'm hobbling from campus to my dorm. And I run into people from my cohort. Mm-hmm. They're playing a game together. They're playing a card game. I'm holding the exams. And I'm like, hey, I'm down to come and play with you guys. Let me just go put these exams in a safe place. And then I'm going to go change my shoes, right? And they were like, are those exams for the class you TA'd for? And I'm like, yeah, like super happy. One guy looks at me. He goes, I just want to say, I really thought I was going to win that award.
What a loser.
And I said, okay.
Too bad, so sad.
And he's like, I don't understand how you got it.
Hey, I'm just that girl.
Because at the time that I got it, he said, wow, that's so impressive. And I thought he was like being genuine.
No.
But he was not being genuine.
Absolutely
right?
not.
And so then somebody else at the table who I thought was a friend of mine goes, yeah, the way you talk about it, it seems like if anybody out of the three of you should have deserved that award, it should have been the white man.
Okay.
Because he actually knew what he was doing.
Then why didn't he win? Because he's not fun.
Well, but here's the thing, though. They started to convince me that the reason why I got the award, it was because the professor nominated me because I work with the professor. Right? So, funny enough, right? Like, I felt bad. I decided to not hang out with them afterwards. I was like, okay, my feet are tired. I'm going to go up. And I just felt bad because I was like, yeah, I won it because I was nice. I went because I'm working with this woman. I meet with her like on Fridays. And let's just say this holiday party was a Wednesday. We're going through and like we're coding together. And I'm like, oh, by the way, I just wanted to say thank you for the award.
And she's like, what? She
goes, what award? And I was like, for best TA? Like, I got best TA for your class. As I was saying that, the woman who was like the head staff person comes by and she goes, because the lady I was working with, her office was in the same wing as this lady. She comes by, she's like, I heard your voice. And then she goes to the professor and goes, it's like, did Cindy tell you that she won best TA for your class? And she was like, yeah, she was just telling me this. And this woman was just like, that's the first time we've ever had a freshman, or not a freshman, I keep saying freshman, but first year win. Mm-hmm. You're like, Cindy hasn't even been here a full semester yet she somehow won over this entire class into voting her best TA. Mm-hmm. And I literally was just like, wait, so it wasn't you? And the woman was like, no, it's voted based on like the students vote. Yeah. The students vote for their best TA. We sent out a survey and we asked them to vote for who they believe their best TA is. And you won for the senior year class. And I'm just like, so I actually did something. But that was the first time I faced racism because they did not think that I was good enough to be able to teach that class and get that award. Mm-hmm. And not only that, I got it my first semester and I got it my second semester. Mm-hmm. Period. Back to back.
Period.
That was my first time dealing with racism from my students. Or not from my students, but from like my coworkers. Yeah. Yeah. So that was year one.
Whew, that's already a rough start.
Ooh, that's already going.
We gotta do what we gotta do.
So yeah, I feel like we've had conversations before where I'm just more eloquent with what I'm trying to say, but overall, when you're going into a graduate program, you're just signing away your life to the devil.
Yeah, honestly. And it's like, it's really from all sides. All the people you're with are insane and like delusional and crazy. And then even just the environment, like if it was purely just the work that you had to do, a PhD isn't that bad. If it was just purely like, you just have to do your work and do research, a PhD is not bad.
Which is what I thought it was.
That's what I thought it was too. It's not bad. It's everything else around it. And also especially like the pay and the fact that like you have to fight tooth and nail to even get like an internship over summer or something like that. You have to beg your advisor, or somebody has to, you know, work for you to get internship and stuff like that. I remember in my year, someone won a scholarship. And surprisingly, every year, someone who's won that scholarship in our department has been a man. Every year. How did they get that a professor has to recommend them. So my advisor is recommending the male student in my year instead of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's offering the male student an internship at Apple. Great.
You know, my advisor did that as well.
Yeah.
There was a man in lab who was one of his favorites, who he actually recommended job after job after job that he never got. But the one job that he sent to me, he didn't even recommend it to me. He sent it to me, was the job the internship that led to me getting this full-time position. Yep. And in his 15 years, in his I guess then, like, by the time I graduated, it's 14, 15 years. In his 15 years, he never had a student actually get hired by that company before me.
This is what I'm saying. Give us an opportunity. They don't even give you an opportunity.
And you want to know what's so crazy, though? It's the fact that we didn't get these opportunities, and yet somehow we did great. Could you imagine if we got the same opportunities? Where could I have been,
girl,
if I didn't have to fight tooth and nail for it?
That's what I'm saying. I'm out here passing quals early, and I was drowning.
I'm out here getting, like, it was me getting those teaching assistant awards that made me consider becoming a professor. Yeah. Did you know I got reached out to by a prestigious, like, teaching university because a student that I TA'd recommended me?
How cute is that?
Right? The chair of the department reached out to me and said, hey, we don't typically do this, but we're looking to hire a position and we value our students' input. A student gave us your name and we know you're about to graduate because a student, and I still to this day don't know the student.
Yep.
But because I didn't get the nurturing needed from my advisor, I could have been a professor at this university.
Exactly.
If I got nurtured. Because when I told him I needed a letter of recommendation, he was like, you never told me you wanted to teach. If you did, things could have been different. How so, sir?
How so?
How so?
How so? Did he not ask? And then he knows that you won that award twice. Why wouldn't he ask? Sorry, I'm looking for the hidden camera.
But yeah, so.
Yeah, and I agree with that because I also wanted to be a college professor. And after being with those lunatics, I was like, this is not the career for me.
They just beat any sort of ambition out of you.
Yeah.
They just really, that's what they need, though. They need you to be the lesser version
Punching
of yourself.
bags. Yeah.
So that you feel the need to prove to them that you are good enough by doing more work. Because they want you to be okay with being underpaid and overworked.
Yeah. And it's a complete cycle that they perpetuate over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. And my issue was, I've heard stories in my department, like, and this was the main thing that I was like, oh yeah, this career is definitely not for me. Mm-hmm. So like in our department, they've had previous professors who come in and, tenure track and all that stuff, trying to get on there. And they have actually fired professors for wanting to help students too much. Oh, you're not focusing on your research. Why are you spending so much time, caring about the students and mentoring them when you should be researching? Like, that's not a part of their job as well. Mm-hmm. And not like, oh, they're not doing what they're supposed to. It's just they're uncomfy with the fact that they actually care about the students because they want to have an environment where all the students are under a boot.
Yep.
And I feel like this is just what happens, especially at prestigious universities. I've heard that there's good PhD programs out there.
I don't believe it.
By design, there can't be.
I think there's only good advisors.
Yeah, there's good advisors. There's definitely PhDs that are less toxic. But by design, the fact that like the most you can get paid as a PhD student is probably like what, 30,000, unless you have to get a magical
California,
grant that will
I think
stack.
Is like 32
maybe. I think the highest
34?
I've heard is probably like 40, and that was somebody who had like a government grant or something.
Yeah, but like the base that the school gives
Yep.
is like 30 something.
Yep, 30 something. So that by itself, that's already toxic.
Yeah.
You want me to literally work 80 plus hours a week, even during the courses.
Yeah.
80 plus hours a week for not minimum wage if we're breaking it up like that.
Well, it's for 20 hours worth of work.
For
You're
20
getting paid for
hours,
20 hours.
exactly.
But you work 80 plus.
So you don't get paid for the work that you do. You get paid just to do your little teaching side gig, and you can't have any jobs outside of it. Not that you would have the time.
Yeah, I was about to say you don't really have the time to. But yeah, you sign in a contract that you won't have any jobs.
Yeah.
Any other jobs.
And so that's what was so frustrating to me is I basically realized it's a Ponzi scheme, because even if you make it past the PhD and you're able to get your postdoc where you're still not getting paid money, and then you finally get into your early career, you're becoming a professor, there's not a lot of spots.
Because tenure track, you have the job until you no longer want the job.
Yeah.
Once you have tenure.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of spots. A lot of these old, crusty, old professors are still here.
Yeah.
I have one story, and I got to tell it because just unbelievable. So this is the one story that I didn't tell earlier because I forgot about it. But old crusty professors need to retire. And it's because they tend to be some of the most toxic ones in the department.
Yeah.
And everybody just appeases them, and they just let them basically abuse people. So I remember this professor, he's an amateurist, whatever, old person professor. Super prestigious, like president, professor, whatever, I don't know. So he sent an email to the entire department saying that Asians are overrepresented in mathematics. Why are you sending that? This is when that Asian hate was at the all high. Why are you sending that? This is after that town hall where he was making a fool of himself. This is the Hispanic man with some indigenous blood in him. Yeah, so he sent that to the entire department. Students were responding saying like, hey, maybe not do that.
Yeah.
I'm an Asian person. And all this Asian hate's been going on. I feel like this is extremely disrespectful, and I don't want to see this in my email address that you sent to the entire department. And so there was a whole lot of back and forth, and then other professors were defending him. The black man came in and was like, well, it's true. And so like overall, I think in our times at a PhD program, it's just a lot of people running around and abusing people and just being inconsiderate, and just the lack of empathy is outstanding. And there's no place for me in academia, and I think there's no place for a lot of people in academia. Like we're just casted aside and not allowed to thrive.
Truthfully,
it's a fact. Fendi fact. But yeah. Gosh, we've been through it.
I can't believe I did it.
I can't believe you did it. No, I can't believe you did it. You were there. I think what worked for you is I didn't radicalize you until like the second to last year.
Well, that's the issue was, though, I was baby radicalized after I finished my thesis proposal. Because a friend of mine, she's still in the PhD program at Rice. We started at the same time, but I remember we had a conversation after we finished the thesis proposal where we both wanted to quit. But because we weren't enjoying it. But at the same time, we've done everything outside of the like actual thesis. And we already been there for like 3 years. The last time I had an internship was in 2018. Now it's like 2021, almost 2022.
Rough.
And it's just like, oh, what do I have to show for it? It took me 4 years to get a master's. And I was like, I'd have to fight for a master's. And so it was just one of those things where I silently gaslit myself into thinking like, okay, maybe it's just a me thing. But then when I did talk to you, I was like, no, I am struggling. And I need to get out. But at the same time, I couldn't really. It was one of those things where like it's the same
You
thing.
were like
ran
right
true.
there.
I was almost done.
Yeah.
I had by the time I met you, I had a year left.
Yep.
And there's not enough time, but the amount of times after having that conversation with my advisor, he threatened to like push back my graduation because I wanted to focus on my future career than finishing up with him.
It's a whole lot of.
Yeah.
I feel like we've been through so much. Like, we could write a whole novel.
We should write a book.
Oh, maybe we will.
We should.
But we definitely 100% could write an entire novel.
Yeah.
About our grad experience and how academia is toxic.
Yep. I've saved those emails because I was ready to send them in case he was going to let me not graduate.
I think I have the emails too.
Yeah. So
all the emails because I couldn't believe it. These people are crazy.
Yep. Look out at a publisher near you. You might see a book written by
you
me.
We're crazy enough to do that.
Honestly, we should make it fiction, but it's not fiction.
But it's not fiction. Based on a true story.
Yeah.
Golly gee. All right. You see, we knew this was gonna drain us, and I think it did.
I'm rehashing
the pain.
I'm getting real tired.
The pain and suffering.
Yeah.
All right, Cindy.
I need to take a nap.
I need to take a nap too. I'm over this.
Yeah.
But you know, the silver lining at the end of the story is that we're done.
We are done.
And one way or another, we're done.
We're never going back.
And we be letting everybody we can. We do not recommend a PhD program. Good luck to you if you want to try it, but that's that.
Yeah.
And that's where we stand.
Yay.
Goodbye. All right. Goodbye. Is someone knocking on my door? Hello? Open the door. Open the door. I'm filming a podcast right now. Goodbye.
Hi.
You want to say hi to the podcast?
No, thank you.
Okay, bye.